Whenever I planted trees, I've always had a rule. First video of the year. Bit of an atypical summer's day. A bit cooler today, but we have had some very, very hot days. And I thought what I'd do is talk to you a bit about water use in the garden. Now, Val de Vie is a reasonably new estate. So a lot of the trees and the plants and what have you are still what we call young. That's relative, of course. Young plants need a lot more water than older plants. An old tree has put its tap roots right down into the water table. So in real terms, you don't need to water it. So when you're planning a garden or planting a garden, try and work out the growth of the different plants. For instance, kikuyu lawns need a lot of water. Their roots can go down 6 meters, but if you continually water it, the roots stay on the surface, which means that the roots aren't going down that deep. They're not getting down to where the water is, which means you continue to have to water it, because otherwise what happens on one of these very hot days, the tops just burn off. Now, I'll go into why that happens just now. Obviously, big trees have got deep root systems, but remember that trees that were grown from cuttings don't form a taproot. They only have lateral roots, which means their roots stay close to the surface, and that means you have to water them a lot more than one that goes deep. Whenever I planted trees, I've always had a rule that I force the tree to follow the water. So for the first week, I'll water it every day. That gets it over the shock. Once a day for a week, once a week for a month, once a month for a year, and then I never water again. That forces that plant to chuck its roots right down into the earth where the water is. A lot of our indigenous plants have got massive tap roots. If you look behind me, you'll probably remember this berm from earlier in the year when it was all in flower. Look how well it's doing. All indigenous plants. They've all gone through a growth phase during the winter. Now in the summer, they're still bright, they're bold. And that's because they're so adapted to the conditions here. Remember, most of these plants grow here naturally. Maybe not in the form that they are here. There are some hybrids, but still. So think logically about the indigenous stuff around in our area. That's not to say you can't plant roses and things like that, but those you have to mollycoddle a lot more. So your water usage will go up in summer. The other point is, of course, is that you should learn to use your irrigation controller. Most houses have got an automatic irrigation system. Have the whole system serviced at least once a year. Make sure there's nothing blocked. The little drippers or the micros or whatever. Learn to control or use the controller. That way you can turn the water on and off. So if it's raining, and during the summer we do get rain, you can go and turn it off. There's no point in irrigating in rain. You then turn it back on. During winter you can keep it off all the time once your garden is more established, instead of irrigating throughout the winter when it's at our wettest point. I actually remember a couple of years back in the floods, I saw people's irrigations running and the estate was flooding. There's no logic to that sort of thing. So learn to use your controller. The other point is, of course, that water is expensive and it's not going to get any cheaper. So only irrigate areas where you need irrigation. Don't irrigate the driveway, for instance. So actually adjust your sprayers. Now remember, during the summer we get strong winds. So you have to adjust them for summer, bring them back in the autumn, and so on. It's all a matter of controlling your environment. You control inside the house, why not control outside as well? Anyway, I thought that would be quite an interesting one, especially in the heat. So if it helped, I've done my job. But give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Any comments, questions, more than happy to answer.